Let me show you something.
Greetings and welcome back to Culture Clash Reactions. My name is Fen.
My name's Akasha.
And on this Sunday will be, Sunday the 23rd of April, will be the London Marathon. For those of you who are a fan of the channel, I might have mentioned it once or twice, maybe in passing.
Didn't you?
What's that?
Didn't you run the marathon?
I did. This is actually the shirt I got at the finish line, so I'm just like supporting my fellow runners. Have I ever mentioned that before, that I've done a marathon? Possibly? I don't know.
I don't know.
For those of you who are running on Sunday, a massive good luck.
Yes.
If you want some inspiration, I actually have a video in this channel entitled My Marathon Story or whatever, if you need a bit of...
because he ran it.
Because I ran it. So please feel free to comment if you are running it, or if you know somebody close to you who is running it. I would love to know. I'm a huge fan of London Marathon and what they do, and it touched my heart and it changed my life in a lot of ways. Yes. I don't... what is this thing in my pocket? Oh, God. Something's poking me, sorry.
I fucking knew.
I might as well just put it on.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. I mean, it makes sense. You know, I'll just put it on. There we go.
Longest fucking intro ever.
That's just my medal there. How do I look?
Like a twat.
Like an absolute bellend. Anyway, shit. No, massive good luck.
No, but for real, good luck, because even as someone that on the sideline and had someone running, shit was wild. We saw a lot of different people.
It was excellent.
Really struggling,
but
it
it's
was
the
amazing.
best thing you'll ever
It was
do.
amazing.
It's the best thing you'll ever do.
Amazing.
Anyway, to today's video, we thought we'd do something a little bit more on the, I don't want to say serious side, but this video...
Culture Clash is getting serious.
Culture Clash is getting cultural.
Okay.
We're going to do a video by, it's a really good YouTube channel called World Friends or something like that, but I have a feeling that they're quite a friendly channel, unlike, I was going to say us, but unlike me. Like, they keep everything very politically correct, and they keep everything friendly and non-offensive and whatever.
That's nice sometimes.
Well, not on this channel. That's not what we do here, and I'm not trying to, like, offend anybody, but it's a, they're doing American stereotypes. So it's a Brit and American talking about American stereotypes, and I want us to
that'll be good.
jump in. Of
That'll
course,
be good.
I'll have, you know, more information because I've lived in both.
Yeah.
But you've obviously visited now a few times and you have an idea, so I thought we could put our 2 cents in and have an actual real discussion. Not saying that they're not having a discussion, but they will keep it friendly, whereas I don't mind telling the fucking truth.
Okay.
That's the difference.
Okay.
So if you're easily triggered, maybe not. But no, it's not. I'm not here trying to fucking offend people. I'm just saying I like to say things how they are as opposed to how I want them to be, because I'm patriotic towards UK. No, I just see things for how they are.
How about that?
I'm direct as fuck.
Yeah.
Should we do it?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I weigh a lot less now than I did when I lived in America. I lost like 20 kilograms just from moving outside.
From leaving America?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Cameron. I'm from the US.
Hi, I'm Lauren from the UK.
All right.
All Americans are rich. I think in general we have an image, you know, like the American dream. Everyone has like the big detached house with the 4x4 car. A lot of money. In general, that's what we think.
Is that all?
Even like the California people, you know, they have the beach houses and whatever, and then everyone from New York also has a house in the Hamptons and all of that kind of stuff. And people in the South have a big ranch, you know? It's the American dream image that we all think about.
I mean, I would definitely say that, like, so obviously you never want to overgeneralize, because there are, in America, the people that have a lot and people that don't have a lot. And I think in media, a lot of times, obviously it's more interesting to see rich people's houses and stuff. So that comes out a lot. But I will say, traveling outside of America, there are many things that I thought were normal that upon later inspection in other countries were like of the privileged few. So yeah, like where I'm from, like we have a lot of land. So living on a house that has a certain amount of land isn't a big deal. And where I live, a lot of people have swimming pools because they don't really cost a lot.
I didn't know that, but if you look at a £300,000 house, what it can buy you in the UK is, in London, a tiny, tiny house.
Yeah.
But in America, you can buy a giant mansion somewhere in Texas.
Yeah.
In Texas especially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to like New York or like LA, San Francisco, Chicago, wherever, there are places that do have very high costs of living. But once you get out of those places, it does become so much more affordable for these things that's not to say that everyone in America has them, because it's definitely, there are poor people everywhere in the world. American idea of what a middle class living is definitely skewed.
Yeah, if you go to the UK with that amount of money, I'm sorry, but it's just not happening.
It's not.
You will not be living the same.
So on that, I
Was
think
this made before inflation?
I was gonna say, yeah, inflation right now, particularly we live in Florida. Fuck
We're
me.
looking at homes right now, and 300,000 does not get you a mansion.
But here's the thing. But having said that, he is kind of right. I think the difference, obviously, I don't know about when she said, "Oh, we see you as rich." I mean, as a Brit, I don't think we see Americans as rich. I don't know if that stereotype is true. No, but I'm saying even for the Brits, I'm speaking for the Brits, I don't think that they go, "Oh, Americans are all rich." I don't know where she got that from. But anyway.
I think it also might come from like movies as well, because it's
Hollywood.
Do you know what I was thinking of when I heard that? And I don't know why. Maybe it's because it was your favorite movie was Home Alone.
Right.
And the houses in
I told
America,
you.
I think that's why it's triggering in my head.
Right.
That the movies.
As a kid, when I used to watch Home Alone, I thought America was just all like that Christmassy and big,
like
and all
huge,
these houses.
big house. Yeah.
Which obviously is not the case. But he made a good point: is that the land, the sheer land. It's true that because this country's so massive, I will say that, and she did point on it. You do get more for your money here. So I mean, I know that we're looking for a house right now, and but the truth is, we found houses that cost $300,000, right? Which is about with 1,600 square feet house with, I don't know, it was like maybe 0.3 of an acre. I can't remember, but on average, with a pool, right, in your house for $300,000.
Yeah.
Babe, that's about £250,000. £250,000 in the UK doesn't buy you anything, particularly in the bigger cities. I mean, in London, you'll be lucky if you can get a shoebox with a bathroom.
Well, I feel like London's similar to New York when, like, cost of living wise.
But I'm even thinking for like where I'm from, like I'm from Cumbria, go on the Cumbrian lads. But even that, like for 250,000, will get you a decent house, but not as 1,600 square feet. And all I like in America that all the houses are bungalows here. That they're all. I really like bungalows.
Well,
I don't like two floors.
Not in America, just in our area. Because like where I grew up, it was 2 stories. Everything was 2 stories.
Really?
Yeah,
I
Florida,
thought the majority
everything
was bungalows.
I mean, I don't think so.
No? Okay. But yeah, you definitely get more for you. I mean, to think you have a pool, I mean, that's no-go in the UK. So that's, I mean, I'll agree with most of what they said there.
Yeah.
In America, you can achieve anything. The American dream. I think for me, with American people, I think they're very positive. They're very motivated to get everything done and achieve their dreams. To have the American dream. This is just my image from TV. And, everyone's always like, I'm gonna do great things and I'm gonna change the world.
I mean, I would say in general, Americans are more optimistic than British people. British people will knock you down a peg, let me tell you.
Oh yeah.
Yes, the American dream is kind of like our national narrative. You can come here and do whatever you want. As long as you work hard, you can succeed. And while that may have been at least somewhat true in generations past for a certain demographic, I think that now one of the big crises that America's having is that like this idea of the American dream is falling apart. So especially among my generation, millennials and younger, we're kind of saying, well, the American dream worked for a lot of our parents. Why is it not
Things
working
were cheaper then.
Yeah, things were cheaper.
Way cheaper. And
well, you have to remember,
lower population.
And like, well, that was not too many years after World War II, so Europe was like demolished.
Yeah.
The only country that like was not bombed essentially was America. So that like allowed us to thrive because there was no other people, like there was no other country kind of competitively in a capitalistic sense. I think the American dream is definitely breaking down.
Like in school, like are you taught like if you do all you can, you'll be successful? I feel like you're all really motivated, and I'm like, where does it come from?
Where does it come from?
It's nice to see. It's nice to see,
Right,
but
right.
sometimes I'm just like, you guys like a little too positive about everything. Like,
No.
you know.
I think it's just the narrative. Like every nation, they have an identity, and that kind of trickles down into like every facet of life. And with America, where like in Britain, you kind of still have a very high like class system,
Yeah, the
and it's hard to get out of that. In America, that doesn't really exist, so it's much easier for like social climbing. And, like, yeah.
Any thoughts on that? You grew up in America, American dream, this, that, and the other. Is that because I have my opinion on it?
And I would say I grew up in a middle class family.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay. But would you say that is a stereotype that's true about Americans, that like positive and you can be anybody you want to be and blah blah blah?
Yeah, I definitely think so. That's why. I mean, that's why
They thrive.
people try to come here.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So,
Okay.
I mean, I'm definitely not, as we've talked about in other videos, I'm not, it's the next one, I'm not overly patriotic here. Not even
Okay.
close. But there is, I mean, it's a real thing. There is a reason why people try to come here. Do you know
Right.
what I mean? I mean, maybe it's skewed. Maybe they have a different idea of what they get here and they're like, oh, maybe it's not exactly what I thought. But, yeah.
I can say that obviously I didn't grow up in America and I don't know this whole like positive thing. I think what I mean two sides to that. Positive, I think they're just generally just happier, more positive people in general.
I think so, yeah.
But the thing I want to say about like making it whatever, that's one thing that I've been pleasantly surprised moving to America is that I know there's a lot of fucked up things with this country and the way it works and
Definitely.
its system and
Definitely.
just it's like a capitalist like devil ground. I get that. But in my line of work, what I've noticed is that like entrepreneurial behavior is very much the norm in America. Everyone's thinking about getting out of their matrix or whatever and trying to figure out a way of becoming their own boss. So even if they fail, they're willing to fail. In Britain, I remember sitting around the pub with some of the lads and I'd be like, listen, I got this business idea. I'm going to open this bar and because I work in the food and beverage industry, and so like, you know, I'm going to open this bar and it's going to be this theme, that theme. And they always go, oh, I don't know, man, not in this town. Everyone here is a bit of a loser. They'll probably think that's a bit fancy smancy. There's always somebody to bring you down. And I know that there's some positive to that, but actually all in all, I think it's negative. Where in America, they'll go, great idea, dude. Like, get some investment, that's
Go
the
for
difference.
it. Yeah.
And then also, I've also noticed when it comes to even things like licensing and like, I'm getting into the nitty gritty of stuff, but like it's easier to open your own business here in America than it is I can speak for the UK. I'm talking about in the UK, they used to just make our life difficult for like smoking areas. You know how like smoking areas outdoors, it's got to be this much away from the door and that much because stipulations of the council and just all this shit that doesn't really exist in America.
Yeah.
And even if it really does, no one's really paying attention to it. It's small things like that I've noticed is easier to make it here if you are of an entrepreneurial mindset. If you're not, then you know the UK is probably safer because you get your benefits and you get your health care and blah 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 and there's job security. But over here, if you are, that's the main one I've noticed. If you're entrepreneurial, people back you, and that's why I think people make it. In that sense,
Because they're willing to maybe go out on a limb
and
do
fail and whatever, and people actually when you and this is now I don't want to like piss off the Brits, but even when you fail in America, I feel like people will say at least you gave it a shot, dude. At least you gave it a shot. In the UK, I have some friends that might be like, we told you, you twat, we told you. Do you know what I mean, kind of thing.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know, but I'm sure there's also people in Britain that would. Do you think that's more of like a personality thing than a cultural thing?
Possibly.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, you would have
that's
more.
why I think that stems into the whole you can make it or whatever. I think if you're surrounded by that, you start to think, oh, no, I can fucking do this. Why am I a hairdresser? I can open my own fucking salon and it's going to be this theme. We're going to play that kind of music. We're going to play, that's
sense.
Anyway, my 2 cents
Makes
on
sense.
it. Are Americans overly patriotic?
Americans are overly patriotic. Yes, yes, yes. There are American flags everywhere. Everywhere. Literally, like, no British person would hang a flag outside their house. Okay, actually, some people may hang an English flag.
Oh, that's not a good thing.
And that is, yeah. We're not that patriotic in the UK, but when we see Americans, they're just so over the top about everything. And yeah, the flags, the hats, like USA. USA.
This is something I also didn't realize until I had left the United States, that countries just don't have their national flag everywhere. I think because from a young time, we always have it everywhere. I mean, we start sports games with singing the song.
Yeah.
Every day at school in the morning, like you have to stand up, you have to listen to the national anthem, and then you have to like put your hand over your heart and say the pledge to the flag. My school did that every morning. It's just like it's a form of like brainwashing in a sense. Because I mean, you're having these kids doing these patriotic things that they don't really even understand what the words are.
I think it's nice that you like love your country, but I feel like if it's too much, then you won't actually dig into the negatives and then kind of try to change things.
That's the point though. We don't want to look at the bad things because that makes us feel bad.
Or maybe you should look at them because they are quite bad.
Agreed.
Do you think Americans are generally patriotic?
Yes, in a way.
Okay, go on.
Like he said, for example, with the before the games.
Allegiance to the flag.
Yeah, like in school, I had to do that every morning. But I kind of like that he used the term brainwashing because it's not something that we really notice. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
We're not like, yes, America. It's just what we do.
Right.
It's so, but as a rule, I think there's a percentage of people that are super patriotic, and that's the percentage that the rest of the world sees, because
I think it's small.
That's what gets broadcasted. You know what I
Right.
mean? Obviously, they're going to show the people at games that have like American flags painted all over them and stuff like that. But
Right.
I think as a rule, like my friends, for example, all the people that
Same with my friends.
and my family, like
Yeah.
we don't see, you know what I mean? Like,
If anything, they're actually fully aware of like what's fucked up about the country and stuff.
Right.
They're not like these like no, I think America's #1. They're actually not like that at all.
Yeah, I
Americans
don't
get a
think
bad
so.
rap. The only thing I would say with the brainwashing thing was a good point. The whole of allegiance to the flag and blah blah. That you know, I can see that even just with the schools and
Yeah.
just the behavior. And not to sound like some kind of like conspiracy theorist, but I think that's all to do with the military. I think that's all to do with making sure that they get a
that is from
percentage of
ingrained
people
by
ingrained in your
a young
brain
age.
that we're all about protecting American freedom when no one's ever fucking attacked America in the history of its existence. Oh, what about Pearl Harbor? Like, I mean, it's just I think that's what it's to do with that. If you try and brainwash 300 million, all we need is 20 million of those to join the military, and that's why they have the biggest army and probably the most powerful army in the world. That's what I think. But the general day-to-day, when you talk to Americans, they're like, bro, this place fucking sucks. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like Americans are quite well aware of what's good and bad about America.
I think so, yeah. I think so.
Americans are ignorant about the world. I'm sorry, but it's so true. It's so true. I mean, we don't learn a lot about other countries in history or geography. We'll learn about Europe. We won't learn about like bad things that we did, because we did a lot of bad things. But Americans, I feel like they only learn American history, American geography, and then you have no knowledge about anywhere else in the world.
Yes, I will agree with this, but I will
Yes.
push back.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, Americans pretty much only know about America. However, I would push back and say like Europeans only know about Europe. They don't know anything about Asia generally.
Not really.
Or like South America. And you have to think, the United States and Europe are about the same amount of land.
Oh yeah.
So we're really focusing on the same amount of land and that history. But yeah, I will say that Americans pretty much know only about America. Sometimes they only know about like their state, and it is something we need to correct. But I think because economically we've been on top for so long, we feel that we can ignore countries a lot of times because they're just going to follow what we do anyway. That's not like the actual thought process, but I think like subconsciously that's just
I think it's
the
like
situation.
we're the best. We don't need to care about anyone else.
Her words, not mine.
I don't mean
it's
it
not good.
offensively.
It's not a
just-
good thing, and Americans do need to learn about things outside of their borders.
So on this point, I'm going to jump in.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
I can't
This-
really.
This point is true.
Yeah.
I get frustrated with how when I'm talking about, and again, I'm not trying to like, I've lived in 7 different countries and this, but that is when I start talking about my life, I'm like an alien to Americans. Like they don't know. The other day at work, I asked a bunch of them to name 5 countries in Africa, and not one person could do it, which I found shocking. So I know what he is making a good point about. We only know a lot about Europe and not about the rest, but we could definitely name 5 countries in Africa.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And we know general knowledge is the word. General knowledge of, the difference between Koreans and Japanese and Chinese and, you know, South America. We could definitely name 10 countries in South America. You know, Americans really on this topic let themselves down big time. They're just not travelers. They just don't know what's going on, and they don't have what I find frustrating is they don't really have the hunger to find out. I know that this country is, they always say, yeah, but this country is huge. I get that. And they go, well, I've never been to Utah. I go, I get that. But at the end of the day, in Utah, everyone's still speaking in English. There's still a CVS on every corner. There's still a Wendy's on every corner.
Yeah.
You're not really out of your comfort zone, really. That's one thing, 100%.
I mean, I can't really. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah,
I think you have to have, like you said, the norm is not to have a hunger to want to know other things.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
That's what I find frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yes, he does make, you know, he made a good point that I suppose in England, in a 2-hour flight, we could be in Italy. And, you know, Italian culture and this and the history and the Romans and wine and pizza and pasta and speaking Italian. That's
but then
true.
an hour 4 or 5 hour flight gets us to the other side of the
Just
country.
gets you to Minnesota.
Which is just, it looks the same. You know what I mean?
That's what I'll give Americans, that geographically that is against them. But still, we live in a world now
So
where,
why do you think it is then that culturally, for example, because like all these things require passports. You know, I don't have any friends that have passports
That's
unless
crazy.
they wanted
I think
to
it's
go
something like 71% of Americans don't have a passport, something like that.
Yeah.
Something crazy.
Because
which is
again, I
frightening.
think it's just there's not a need to. There's so many places to travel here.
Right.
But I get what you're saying. Also, the culture's not going to be that different. You know what I mean?
What I find strange about Americans is that they're always fascinated by the stories I have to tell. When I lived in Greece, when I lived in Poland, they're fascinated by these stories. So they have their hunger's there, but we were talking about the entrepreneurial behavior earlier. Like they have the entrepreneurial behavior as I can do it, But when it comes to traveling, for some reason they go, I can't really do that. Like that's far. Like, what's the difference between a 10-hour flight and a 5-hour flight? Really,
I mean,
it's
kind
5
of, but
hours.
not really. Because like even for example, we're getting married in Italy, and like everybody that you've talked to and I've talked to, like friend wise, have been like,
yeah, but
let's
a bunch
do
of
it.
people have also pulled out.
Yeah.
As well, so there's that. You know, there's no reason for them to. They've had 2 years that the wedding's coming. There's no reason why. Really.
I mean, kind of,
I
but
get
also
that, you know, the
life
financial or
happens
whatever. I
too.
get
Like
that,
we're
I
not the
get
top
that.
of their
But
responsibility.
I bet you, I understand. But I bet you, if you're getting married in the next state, they'd probably turn up. So that's just.
Yeah, of course, because that's a drive.
I guess.
Then now we're just talking about something completely different.
All right,
Now we're
cool.
just talking
Yeah,
about
we've got-
expense.
on our own life.
Yeah.
Americans are obsessed with work. I feel like this goes back to when I was like, you guys are so motivated about everything. Like you always try and do your best at everything. Like I feel like give everything and over to do well. So yeah, this kind of goes with workaholism.
Yeah, I will say that some people are like super workaholic, but I think that there are, going back to things like the American dream and like the freedom for like upward mobility and things like that, it has kind of gotten into like our political system in a way that like American workers don't have the protections that like British workers have. You may not have insurance. A lot of women don't get maternity leave. Like there's not a lot of protections for the American worker. So it's kind of become that people have to work for that sense of security. You overwork yourself. I don't think a lot of people just really want to work,
Yeah, I
but they work so much because yeah, you could do the bare minimum, but like the company's just going to like.
And they can just fire you like immediately.
There are a few protections, but there aren't a ton. So
really
yeah.
scary, actually. You can't just like fire someone in the UK.
Yeah, it's like a whole
There's a whole
process, right?
process,
Yeah.
and like sometimes it's more work for them to fire you than to try and like boost you to do better.
Well, because like workers' unions are not very powerful in the US, so there's not a lot of pushback on that. Americans always feel, I guess because of the American dream, at some point I feel like they think that they're going to be successful, so they're going to have
They
a
just
company,
keep going
so they
and
don't want the
going.
strict regulations for the company because they think they're going to be that rich person making all the money. I think that's part of it as well.
It's actually kind of sad that you don't have any kind of like protection around you for
It's
work.
really, yeah, I mean, people do like 2 or 3, or like teachers, they'll do their teaching job and obviously they've got to do the grading after work. And I know a lot of teachers that on weekends and during the summer and when school is out, they take on part-time jobs at like a fast food
Really?
restaurant or whatever, yeah.
Pay the teachers more. In the UK too.
Thoughts?
Americans think
I mean, I don't have many thoughts on that one, to be honest with you. Because realistically, like, how different is that? I feel like
I
that
don't,
one.
I don't think it's that different.
That's why I feel like they like.
I think
I
the
feel like
Brits
they
like
just
to
use that as
pretend.
like another subject. But to me, their conversation didn't even sound like it was that different than the other.
I can speak for the Brits now. I'm going to piss them all off, but I don't care. They tend to think that they're in a better position than Americans when it comes to workers' rights and stuff. But yeah, okay, maternity leave, paternity leave. What, 3 months? What?
We get that here though.
I get it. I know that there's, again, I don't know the nitty gritty. I understand that there is some more protections for the British, but it's very minute, and it goes back to, again, this whole idea, I find that the British are always, how do I say this? Not relying on somebody else to make sure they're safe, but like, that's why I say to you that one day I have to have my own business, because I do never want to be in a position where, let's say my mother is sick, she's on her deathbed, and I've got to ask somebody for time off. Like, hey, can I need time off because my mother's sick? I need to be my own boss for these reasons. Yes, there's more stress of having, and I have more chance of doing it here in the US. So yes, she has more protections or whatever, but at the end of the day, she is employed by somebody, and eventually they're going to go, hey, you need to come back to work or things start to get messy for you. So I understand that there's some more protections
But
in
even
the
like
UK,
even like
but
for
not
example,
that
I don't,
much.
and that's the thing. I've had the same job. I've worked at the same company for 10 years, so I don't. It might just be a company wide thing, but I think it's like legally here in America. There's ways to, for example, if someone gets sick, there's leave of absence, there's short-term disability, there's all
Right.
these different things. I don't know if you have over there, but
We do, yeah.
yeah, I mean that protects you a little bit.
But by the way, I would say that both of these countries, I'm half Libyan, so both of these, at least these Western countries, have
Even
these
have
things.
that.
In Libya, we go back to basics, because we still have the sense of community and family. If you're sick, the community takes you in.
Right.
Whereas that's gone in the West.
Yeah, it doesn't happen here.
If you are sick, people pretend to care, but really you're fucked. No offense. now I'm getting the Brits and Americans all in one, but it's true. There's a Western and Eastern divide. But anyway.
Americans think every country should imitate the USA. So basically, touching on what we just spoke about, I think American people may see their way as the correct way for everything. However, other countries do things differently. But yeah, sometimes I can feel a bit of a push to, I don't know, not take the American way of doing things, especially not living in the UK. I feel very influenced by American people around me, because it's so easy to be influenced by you guys, because you just do everything so big and so, I don't know, it just feels like I'm absorbing it. So maybe you guys are pushing it, or maybe I'm just easily influenced.
Well, I mean, I think we're a big country with big personality, and there's like this cultural hegemony kind of concept involved with this. Honestly, though, living outside of the US, it makes me really sad countries, for better or worse, are imitating the US. Like, I feel that some of the uniqueness of countries washed away in the name of modernism. Like, think about like 100 years ago. Each country kind of had a different way of dressing, where now we all dress very similarly.
Yeah.
On an individual level, it shouldn't matter what country you're from, like dress however you want to. But it is kind of sad getting out of the USA and seeing that so many things in the world are becoming like the USA.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. What do you think?
American.
I wish they would give examples of what they're talking about, because while they
Yeah.
were talking, I was trying to figure out what. Obviously, I'm not super traveled, but I've traveled a bit, and the only thing I could think of during that was like that like American chains, for example, have made it to
Right.
other countries,
Right.
but that's
That's about
obvious.
it.
But I couldn't think of anything
When she
else.
said she's being absorbed, that's because she's probably living
She
in
probably
America.
lives in
I think. So
America.
yeah, and when you live somewhere, you should be absorbed by it. You should,
Yeah.
I believe, you should take their way of life. That's the way
Right.
it should be. But the idea, like, I think they're talking from like a Western point of view.
Maybe.
If you come to like my part of the Middle East or in Asia or whatever, they're not looking at America like we should be like them. Far from. So I don't know where she got that from. I
yeah.
think she's like,
that one kind of seemed like they were grasping a little bit for like
Yeah.
something else to talk about, but I don't know,
Maybe.
maybe.
Eat too much.
What is it, Americans
yes
eat too much?
And no. I don't know whether they eat too much, are they overeating, or whether it's just the portion size that have conditioned them to eat too much.
I mean, in the end, that means they're eating too much.
Okay, true. Yes, they overeat. But yeah, I was really shocked. I watched a video that was comparing the meal sizes from fast food chains in the UK and the US. The small size in the US for like the chips, the fries, it was like bigger than the large size from the UK chain. you do everything so big, and that also includes food, like, you don't need this much food when there's people starving in the world and you guys are like...
I mean, this is an issue, like it's not just the portion sizes at restaurants. I think that because America a lot of times has this concept of like go big or go home. There's no moderation a lot of times. Yeah, we eat a lot. I go back, so I weigh a lot less now than I did when I lived in America. I lost like 20 kilograms. Just from moving outside.
From leaving America.
Yeah. Because a lot of American food, not just snacks, but also meals, they're just like scientifically calibrated so that you just continuously eat. Like think about when you go to a fast food restaurant and you're eating McDonald's, sometimes you just eat that and you like wolf it down, right? So much of American food is that strain of like addictive.
So Moorish, like you just can't stop.
It's like salty and sweet and fatty, and like you're not even conscious with like the amount of calories that you're putting down. I would agree that Americans eat way too much.
Way too much.
I've got to jump in here.
He's been out of the U.S. for a bit because he used kilograms.
Right.
No, we don't use kilograms.
I've got to jump in on this, and if the Brits haven't turned on me already, they're going to right now.
They have.
Because I like to say things as they are, not how people want them to be. Yes, in America, you probably, the medium here is 400 milliliters, where in the UK it's 300. But the reality is, Britain is just as overweight, just as unhealthy. Processed chicken nuggets, frozen pizza, McDonald's, crisps, fucking cakes, muffins. It's all the same shit. Like, it's all... I get that America is an extreme country, so everything that's shown is extreme. So when somebody's fat, he's like, I'm the 1,000-pound man. I get that.
We even have shows about that.
Right, I get that. But the idea that Britain is more healthy is just not true. And this is coming from my now Mediterranean side, where, like... I'm not saying that they're particularly the healthiest, but for sure, I mean, like, things in the UK are just as processed. What I would say about when they made the comparisons of, like, oh, in America you get a bigger Coke when it's a medium, it's a set. That's just getting more for your money. Like, Coca-Cola is poison. Okay, so
yeah, sugar. It's just sugar and processed.
It's just poison.
Yeah.
So all they're doing is giving you a little bit more than everybody else. It's still, you know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, if you
I do heroin, but I don't do as much as Dave. Dave does a lot of heroin.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so he does it. Like, why? Because he does.
Well, when you mention like Mediterraneans, like that is a legit thing because they say that the Mediterranean diet and people in the Mediterranean live longer than anybody else in the world.
Processed.
That's why, because they eat fresh things, they catch fresh fish, they have a lot of healthy oils. But it's just not like that over here. I can't really speak on the UK, but even when I've been over there...
One thing annoys me about Brits when they're pointing fingers at Americans about weight. Yes, here the portions are big, but that's all about the American
Well, yeah,
side.
and like I said, I can't speak on it much because I haven't lived there, but I've traveled to the UK a few times now, and I will say even like just walking around in the restaurants and the places we eat,
people are just as overweight.
Well, I wasn't even going to talk about the people. I'm just talking about. I'm just talking about the food. I didn't think it was that much different.
I'm talking about the people. I mean? They're just as
I know
overweight.
Over here we
the
have
average person's fat.
Over there we have like free. Over here we have free refills and stuff.
I do love a free refill. I'm not gonna lie. That one's a good one in America. If you finish your Coke, even if it's halfway full, boom, there's some more for free. Yeah. Love that. That's okay. That's probably a good example, but still, do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's just something that.
Okay.
It was interesting. Most of those stereotypes are the ones that I already had in my mind. It was good to hear an opinion back. Americans are great. Please don't take anything I say offensively. I'm just like...
I mean, I think all of these I've heard before. And all of these I like agree with. While I think there is like a reason for the stereotypes, I don't think that makes it an excuse. Even though there's maybe a valid reason for why some of these bad characteristics of us exist, it doesn't mean that we can just brush it off like, oh, well, we can't change. We need to be retrospective of and like try and fix to be better people. Yeah. Today, we talked about some stereotypes that other people have about my country, the United States of America.
If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, well, I think they did a decent job. I thought it was going to be like a bit too friendly, which it kind of was.
No, I think there was good. I mean, they made good points.
He made some decent points.
Yeah.
She was kind of cliche a little bit. But yeah. Thoughts?
I just think there's stereotypes everywhere.
Yeah.
I think everyone stereotypes.
But I can say that after living in America, a lot of them are unfair. I think.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them are unfair. Americans get a bad rap, and can I tell you something?
Uh-oh. What?
If I haven't pissed enough people off as it
Oh,
is.
God.
I think there's some jealousy there.
What, between Brits and Americans?
Well, not just Brits and Americans, but yeah. I don't know how to say this correctly.
That shit's
America,
about to blow up, baby. People are about to be so mad.
Let them have it. Let them
I
have
know,
it.
I'm just saying.
Let them have it. America is important on the global stage, whether it's who's running for president. Like, everyone knows who the American president is. If you go to Cambodia and ask them who's the British prime minister, they won't have a clue, right? So I think, I'm just using Britain as an example. So I think European countries, not that, I don't know if jealous is the right word, but there is this feeling of, well, why do they fucking matter? They don't even know how, like, they can't even name 5 countries in Africa. They're all stupid. There's a little, I just feel, I don't know if I'm, jealousy is maybe the wrong word, but it just feels like, yeah, you've got to swallow it. You know, Americans, the most famous people in the world, when musicians, actors, whatever, Americans. When, you know, when you think of all these big chains, your McDonald's and your this and your Coca-Cola, it all came out of here, you know. So you just got to accept it. So I think that people are quick to try and shit in America where they can. And by the way, there's plenty to shit in America.
I just think, can I be honest with you? I think it just goes back to the basic human, and I just think people shit on other people to make themselves feel better.
Maybe.
No, genuinely.
Right.
I'm not even talking about the Brits. I'm just talking about anybody. They shit on other places
to make themselves feel better.
Yeah, whether it's we shit on this country because we have an insecurity about our country, or we shit on
America's an easy target.
Yeah.
Because they're the biggest.
Or we shit on them because they're fat, but so are we. It makes me feel better because they're fatter.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it just goes back to that.
Anyway, interesting video. I'm sure the comments will blow up, but I'm ready. Any last thoughts, sweetheart?
Listen, I love the Brits. I love the Americans.
Of course, I love everybody. Of course, I do. I mean, what this whole channel is, it's called Culture Clash Reactions because we are from 4 different countries.
Yeah.
You know, we're in a position where we can we can, and stereotypes. Some of them are true. And some of them are just bollocks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think we named the ones that are true, like I said, about the geography and not about other countries. That annoys me about Americans. But the idea that they're fatter than anybody else or that they think they're more important than anybody else, I don't think so. Anyway, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Check us out at Instagram at Culture Clash Reactions.
Hopefully,
if you still like us.
If you still like us. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, enjoyed the video. A little bit something different today, but we do like to kind of mix it up and sometimes get into the nitty-gritty of stuff. I'm sure you'll let us know in the comments. Anyway, until next time, see you all later.